Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello again, and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Len Silverman, a strategic marketing expert, educator, and author with over 30 years of experience in both B2C and B2B marketing. His career includes roles such as brand manager at AngelSoft, director of marketing at Scoville Fasteners, and VP of marketing for Fruit of the Loom's activewear division. Len has owned and led a seven-figure business with teams across multiple states, giving him firsthand insight into what it takes to grow and sustain successful organizations. As the co-founder of Up to 11 Marketing, Len helps small and mid-sized businesses break free from growth plateaus with strategy-first marketing plans rooted in real-world business ownership experience. His mission is to empower leaders to align their brand strategy with their core values and long-term growth goals. Drawing from his 20-year tenure as a Huntington Learning Center franchise owner and adjunct instructor of marketing, Len brings a unique lens to the evolving workforce. His new book, Mesh, Aligning the Personal Brand of Gen Z with Your Company Culture, explores how understanding the employee journey, just like the customer journey, is critical for attracting and retaining top Gen Z talent. Deeply committed to giving back, Len serves as chairman of the board for the United Way of Sumner County, applying business principles to ensure donor impact stays local and meaningful. Whether he's mentoring entrepreneurs, building purpose-driven campaigns, or advocating for workforce alignment, Len's passion lies in helping people succeed. Personally and professionally, I'm truly pleased to have him here today with me on the podcast. Good morning, Len. How are you?
Good morning. That intro makes me sound like a spectacular human being, so thank you.
That's what it's designed to do. So, Len, let's start off by asking you this question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? And what were some of the fundamental influences in your early life?
Well, that's interesting. I was born in the Northeast, but I tell people I grew up in South Florida. We moved down there when I was in fourth grade, so I think that counts. Definitely a beach town. I didn't have this perspective until much later in life. I went back, stayed at a hotel on the beach, and drove back to my childhood home. It took about 7 minutes. I never had that perspective, but I was definitely growing up in paradise. As far as influences are concerned, I was a child of the 80s. One of the major influences that I had, and this is kind of interesting when you talk about what sparked me to be thinking about the subject matter for the book. As a child of the 80s, you just went out. You opened the front door when you got home from school. You went out, found your friends and hopped on a bike and went all over town, not a care in the world in a lot of ways. That created a lot of independence and supported a lot of creativity. I think that has really stuck with me throughout my life. As your intro shows, I've done a wide variety of things. I also paint, and I'm writing a script for a movie. I have a lot of interest, and I really think it is because of the way I grew up, I created a lot of different interests and things I wanted to pursue.
Interesting. And yes, being a 4-year-old in Florida does count. Wherever your influences really came into your life when you reached a certain point and can understand them, I think is really important. Your new book, Mesh, explores how the employee journey mirrors the customer journey. Can you explain what that means and why it's especially relevant for engaging Gen Z in the workforce? A very contemporary topic in workforce development these days. Go ahead, Len.
Yeah. I've spent the majority of my career in marketing, and I've been a brand marketer for most of that time. One of the things that's fundamental in brand marketing is the first step, you got to know yourself. You have to know what your product or service or company stand for. And you have to know that inside and out. And you also have to live it every day. And people, I think in today's world with technology and social media, they're more savvy than ever. So if you're inauthentic in some way, they're going to pick up on that. The customer journey is starting out with, how does somebody get to know you? And then how do they get to like you? What makes them trust you and buy from you? Ultimately, the power of the customer journey makes them repeat purchase and refer you to other people. And I was thinking it's very, very similar when you think about hiring people. And I've hired tons of people over my career. They have to first get to know, like, and trust you. And that cannot happen the day they submit a resume. That work has to start prior to. And again, as a company, you have to know yourself and what your brand stands for. A good example would be if I'm the store manager of Hot Topic in the mall, there's a certain type of employee that I'm going to be looking for. And that's the image that I portray. That is how I support my staff. Middle-aged Len isn't going to apply for a job at Hot Topic. I know that's not going to be a good fit for me. So they've done a great job from that perspective. Then once those folks who are now your ideal prospects for jobs get to know and like and trust you, how do they interact with you? So that really becomes the interviewing and onboarding process. I know there's a lot of different perspectives on this, but I think in a lot of ways, that's where we're losing people these days. You know, if you talk to the average Gen Zer who's looking for a job, they will tell you what I call crop dust. They're just crop dusting resumes because they have to. The job descriptions anymore are all written by AI. They're 40 pages long. It's difficult to really get to the heart of what the job is and what skill sets they're looking for. We talk about Gen Z ghosting employers. A lot of employers are ghosting Gen Z. So they'll apply for a job and never hear one way or the other. So that's where you get into that kind of try. And as a Gen Z or really anyone, am I now willing to buy what this company is selling me? And ultimately, when you get to things like repeat and refer, I mean, refer is pretty obvious. You want your employees to bring other great employees. But repeat is length of stay. How long am I going to hire someone and keep them on board with me? So my belief, and the book really walks through every step of this, is each step of that journey needs focus and attention. But it all starts at the head of the stream, which is understanding my corporate culture, my brand, and staying true to it.
Music to my ears. I have been talking about this for the last couple of years in presentations, certainly on the podcasts with a wonderful, blessed group of guests. I absolutely agree. I read something the other day that said most job seekers find a job through personal referrals, just like the old days. And now we have tools that help us craft a resume that will get through the AI screening process. You know, we have that on the side of the people. I absolutely agree. My research says that there are the big three. I could talk about the big three all the time. I have talked about this with podcast guests from around the world. I have yet to find someone say, no, that's not right. This is the big three. Number one, what are people searching for? And I'm talking about the multi-generational workforce in total. Number one, they want values alignment. Right? They want to know you care about the same things they care about. Values are so important because the organization's values match that of the person. And does the person's individual values align with the organization?
Right.
People want to be involved in the decision-making processes of the organization. People want to matter, and they want their work to matter. They want to have impact. They want to be heard. They want to know that there's something going on here that enlivens them, that warms their soul, if you will, that they're part of something meaningful but fun. Meaning is the new money. That's my topic for this year. The third one is that people want training and learning that will advance their professional careers, maybe spill over to their personal lives as well. Yet, when I talk to people, to me, these are fundamentals. If you're not an organization and you're not speaking to these fundamentals every day in your marketing campaigns to bring people into the organization and acting as such, then you're missing the bet here. The rest of it's chaff. In the end, you may hire a person for a few months, and guess what? They're gone. I can't stay here anymore. I can't be with these people. I'd love to get your reflection on those ideas.
I'm going to be like every one of your other guests and agree with you completely. I will take the third one a little further where we were talking about training. One of the premises that I put forth in the book is early in my career, I had mentors. When you hear the word mentor, you think of this sagely adult who takes you under their wing and shows you the ropes. That isn't exactly what I mean. I'm talking about people who would very quickly show you where the guardrails were. In a nice way, kind of slap you around a little bit and say, no, you don't do this. One of the stories I tell, I had an old boss, Jack Sawyer, former military. He ran the Gwinnett County Chamber of Commerce in Atlanta, which was one of my early jobs. And Jack, he'd get his hair cut every week. That was Jack. I'm a young kid. My early degree was in advertising, and I thought I was going to be an advertising copywriter. So I'm the creative guy. This was back when we wore a tie to work. I decided I'm going to wear flamboyant ties and match my socks. I'd wear a blue suit, bright pink tie, bright pink socks. I remember early on, Jack called me to his office. He was a super nice guy. He just started shaking his head. It's like, Len, that does not represent the Gwinnett County Chamber of Commerce. The chairman of the board, who was elected that year, I'm going to be 60 in May, had a mustache his entire adult life. Jack made him shave the mustache off because he said it didn't represent the chamber. Well, that's a little bit of an exaggerated example, but that type of mentor existed back then. Today, I think there's a lot of kid gloves going on in the workplace. The people I talk to in leadership positions have a misunderstanding maybe of Gen Z or almost a fear of Gen Z. They have a hands-off approach to them. And I got to tell you, from the Gen Z, and keep in mind, I've owned learning centers for more than 20 years. When I first started in 2004, the front end of Gen Z was 7 years old. These kids grew up with me. I've seen them and I've talked to them as they've gotten older and gone on to either college or community college. They want mentoring. They want training in the things that you're talking about. You just have to serve them up a little differently than it used to be. They don't instantly respect you because you're older or because you've been in a position longer. They respect you for, are you doing the things that you say that you're doing? Are you authentic? Are you telling me the truth? Once you gain that level of respect with them, they want you to tutor them because they're actively trying to skill stack. They're trying to build their own skill set because they grew up in an era where they saw companies were not all that loyal to their parents, during the economic downturn and COVID. So they're looking at, how do I build my skill? How do I become transportable anywhere I want to go to enhance my career? So they're very open to those kinds of things. I agree with all the other things you talked about for sure.
I had a guest on, a wonderful guy from India. His name is Nikhil Raval. And Nikhil has written a book called Working with Gen Z. He lived in America for 14 years and had an unfortunate accident back in India that claimed the life of his mother. He emigrated back to India to take care of his family, his dad and people like that. He's been on my podcast. I've been on his. And he's absolutely in line with that. Listen, don't be afraid of these folks and don't think they're worthless. They really are smart, but they want something more than just a paycheck. And of course, we're seeing that across the board in terms of the backlash of COVID, right? People are not looking for a paycheck anymore. They want to do something meaningful. What does it matter? Do I matter? I want to matter, that kind of a thing. So I absolutely agree with you. There's a gold mine in talent if people understand how to come to the marketplace with them, train them, create trust, safety and trust, the basic human needs to be part of a group. If you've got that, okay, now we got some place to go. And so I absolutely agree with you. And we're going to have to learn the lesson the hard way. Organizations are learning the lesson the hard way because they're still stuck in that mindset of this is the way the organization runs.
Yeah, a lot of the functions are really silent. It's really up to the leader or the leadership team to set that tone. Once you get down into the HR function, it's not fair to assume that our HR managers are going to carry that weight of making sure that people are in alignment with the brand. That has to come down from the leadership team to make sure that they have a more cultural awareness of the entire organization.
Agreed. I think one of the simple ways of achieving that is to have a very defined, clear, one-sentence mission statement that everybody can understand. It's the galvanizing spirit. A lot of times we have mission statements that are 6 paragraphs long or 3 pages long. What are you people really all about? Come on. The answer is they're trying to make everybody happy. And they're trying to answer everybody's mail.
Right.
No, that's not how it works. One sentence, clear, clean. In the last presentation I did a few weeks ago, actually at a cyber event in South Carolina, I told people, if you're a job seeker and you come across a mission statement that's 6 paragraphs long, move on. Move on, go someplace else because these folks have no idea who they are. If you think you're going to fit in there, how are you going to fit in there? They haven't clarified the message. It's got to come from the head person. And flow down directly so people have a clear idea of what this organization is, where they are in their lifespan, and where they're going.
In the book, I did a series of interviews with company leaders, nonprofit, franchising, corporate leaders. They all echo that. They all have their own way of talking about it in their own stories, but it was clear each one of them had a very clear vision of what their organization stood for, and they make it their job to share that vision down the chain. That's why they're successful.
Lately, I've been using this example from the movie 300 with Gerard Butler. This is Sparta. Does anybody not know who we are?
Right.
Does everybody understand what we do? Nobody messes with us because we're Sparta.
Well,
now that's a slogan.
It's interesting you bring up that point because I was going to say, one of the challenges, and I face this a lot in marketing, we talk about ideal customer. When you look at an ideal customer, if you sit down with a relatively early stage company, maybe they've been in business 3-5 years, they're successful, they're growing. A lot of times I'll say, well, describe for me your ideal customer. And all of a sudden it's this and this and this person, and they're trying to be everything to everybody. I have to stop them and say, no, your ideal customer, the one that brings you the most profit, the most joy in doing business with them, they're the most likely to repeat business with you. When you talk about mission statement, that's where I think companies go off the rails, is they try to be everything to everybody. It's like you were saying, trying to make people happy. But if you think of Sparta, Sparta had a single enemy, and that rallied everybody together. It was very clear who they were against. So that gave them a singular focus. You need to do that in your company as well. If you're trying to be everything to everybody, you're going to be nobody. And to your point about if you are looking for a job and you see a mission statement like that, what it means is when you go to work for that company, they're going to be all over the place. And it's not going to be very clear what your role is and how you fit into the organization. At the end of the day, you're probably not going to end up staying. You'll have a bad taste in your mouth. So I agree with you. You're better off avoiding those situations if you can afford to do it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I appreciate that feedback, and I appreciate that as comments, because if you want talent in this world that we live in now, you're going to have to pay attention to things you hadn't paid attention to before. They want to be part of the movement going forward. So I absolutely agree with you. Yet organizations are still confused by it all. It's clear what you need to do, and then you have to beat that drum so that people say, the goal, of course, is to get a prospective employee that says, I want to be part of that. I want to be on that team. Those folks know who they are. They know where they're going. I'll work whatever hours I have to work just so I can be part of that crowd. I absolutely agree with you.
I
Go
do
ahead.
have to give a little credit to the CEOs and presidents and chairmen out there. Basically, it's like being a golfer. You're supposed to smack the ball 350 yards off the tee, make a beautiful 90-yard pitch shot, and then make a 30-foot putt. It's a variety of skills that you're being asked to deliver every day. And I think if you're the CEO of a growing company, and maybe there are other issues like facing tariffs, there's a lot of scrambling going on, trying to figure out how we're going to incorporate that. I can understand where it's very difficult to carve the time out to focus on the things that we're talking about. I do try to give them some grace on that. I think it's important for folks like us who have the time to think about these things, to encourage them to continue to investigate that. But I certainly understand how busy a lot of these folks are.
Agreed. And I would also add, to me, it's fundamental. I mean, it's absolutely necessary to get that right because it makes everything else easier. Everybody understands what you're doing. And I appreciate that. Let me ask you this question, if I can. You've led teams across multiple states and industries. What have you learned about aligning personal values with company culture, especially when managing multi-generational teams? So why don't you take me down that road?
You hit the nail on the head in our conversations. The most important element of my leadership was clarity. I found that if I could be clear with people, and not in a telling way, but in an understanding your role way, I got great performance from folks. Like you said, people talk about work-life balance all the time. And for some of us, it's a bit of a head scratcher because in a way, work is part of your life. If it isn't, your time spent could be kind of miserable. If you feel like you're just going in and punching a clock in order to buy time to go home and do fun things, I don't envy that. I think feeling like you're an important part of an organization and having clarity from the leadership in terms of what are we as a team trying to accomplish? How do I as an individual play into that? And what are the tools that I have to utilize to get that job done? Once I've given that clarity and I train behind that, I like to give my people a lot of leeway. I'm a big believer in empowerment. At the end of the day, there's only one Len to go around. And I hire smart people and I want to let them go and do what they want to do. And my mantra always was, it's okay to make a mistake, just don't make the same mistake twice. Let's learn from it. So I'm big on forensics after an issue has arisen so that we can understand, okay, what went wrong? How do we prevent that from happening again? So it's that open line of communication, clarity, a little bit of forgiveness baked into it. And I've yet to find a generation where that does not work. Each one has their take on things and maybe have to use slightly different language, but in general, that theme works for everybody.
I agree. And as far as work-life balance is concerned, I've had two guests, Dr. Ashley Poklar, a psychologist, and Randy Roberts, a coach. Ashley said to me, and she has 4 children, right? And she said to me, that idea of work-life balance is a myth. I said, really? She said, you have to come at it from a work-life integration. That makes more sense. Randy Roberts agreed with her. She said, yeah, it's much more about integration. I said, you can't think of balance when you're all in on something, in the sense that there's a mission ahead, there's a job to do, and everybody is working on this. And you're putting in tremendous amount of hours to solve a problem. Is there balance there? Not really. It's full on. It doesn't mean that once you get a break or once you can step back from that, you can turn your attention to something else and integrate something else into your life. So I think work-life integration just makes so much sense to me. We're all in this. We've got to put in the time to do it. And I think that makes so much more sense to me than just this idea that we're always trying to strike a balance. I think it's important for people to grab hold of that and say, do what needs to be done. I like to say, do what's in front of you. If this is in front of you, do it. Get it done and move on to the next thing. So I absolutely agree.
I'm a big fan of a show that's on right now called Severance. It's on Apple TV. The premise of the show is they've come up with technology that these employees that go to work for a company called Louie, as soon as they walk in the building, a chip in their brain goes off and an inner personality comes out. And that personality does the work of the day. And then when they leave, the other personality turns on, they're outie. So it's really interesting. It's a lot of what you're talking about, where we come to discover neither is very happy. And that's because there's no integration between their personal lives and their working lives. And this is a stark sci-fi example, but they're exploring the same thing. And I agree with you. I think the word integration really hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, I agree. That's really interesting to me. I was a young naval officer and there was no balance. For the first 2 years, my job was to make mistakes and learn. Except I kind of fooled some people and qualified as an engineering officer to watch an aircraft carrier a lot earlier than people thought it would be. Even as an incident, you could wield a certain amount of influence. It was a wonderful learning example. I tell people all the time, in the Navy at that time, you're trained to be a leader from the beginning, right? Leadership, you cut your teeth on leadership. But no one ever asked me, hey, do you have the 57 traits of a leader? No one said you just don't have enough personality and not enough charisma. What they told me was get to work, figure it out, right? Dive in and you will learn by doing. When you make mistakes, that's okay. We'll get it figured out and move on to the next thing. So I appreciate that idea. You served as an adjunct instructor and led a learning center franchise for 2 decades. How has your experience in education informed your approach to marketing, talent development, and leadership?
Well, you probably can pick up on this in terms of the way that I talk. I've been accused of sounding like a professor for most of my professional career. I always looked at things from the perspective of learning and advancing, whether it's in my career or certainly in the classroom. And it's why I got involved with learning centers to begin with. I'm a big believer in self-development and lifelong learning. Is everybody wired that way? No. Have I had employees who just want to come in, do the job and go home? Absolutely, I had. But when you find those people who are intellectually stimulated, who really want to know more, and they demonstrate a true interest, not just in your company, but in what you do, they're gems. And then it's really everyone working together to become better than we were yesterday. I've always had that philosophy for my own self and certainly for the people who work with me. And I think ultimately, you said early on that we're social beasts. We want the group to succeed. And as much as everyone recognizes they're part of that group, they not only feel the weight and importance of what they can do to elevate the group, but then everyone celebrates the success afterwards. I'm watching the Final Four right now, or overall March Madness, and I don't know if you pay attention when they interview the coaches. Almost every coach says the same thing, which is, I'm really proud of this team. They step up for each other. They're not selfish. It's all the same stuff. These teams every time are elevating further and further in the tournament. The cream is rising to the top. It's not, hey, we've got this one great point guard and he's carrying the team on his back. It's always about how the team coalesced and played together for the benefit of all. I've always believed in that philosophy, and I've seen it play out in corporations, classroom, quite honestly, even with parenting. If you have multiple kids, you kind of understand that same thing. Everyone kind of plays a part in the family.
I think no matter what sport you're looking at, if you have people on that team that it's all about them, it's all about me. I'm the star here. Everybody else should just try to make me look even better. They're not going anywhere. They really are not going anywhere. It's always the team where they really care for each other. They're all stars, but they're there to support and help each other. So I absolutely agree with you. And it's a great lesson to learn about teamwork. I was going to make this point, and I'd like to do that, and then we'll get on to the last question. One of the things that I find so interesting nowadays is that there are 2 words in the dictionary that we use. One we don't hardly use anymore. And it goes to your point about people jumping in and becoming part of the future of an organization. We use the term deserve a lot. Everybody says, oh, yeah, I deserve this and I deserve that. And the word we don't use enough is EARN. Get in there and earn it, work it and earn it. When you earn something, when you learn something, no one can take it away from you. You've done it. So I felt like I needed to make that point. I'm watching a conversation. I've had certain people on that we talked about ambition. And somehow ambition has gotten to be a dirty word. I don't know why, but this person has great ambition. And yet some of the people I've spoken with have said, you know what? You got somebody who's ambitious, let them go. Turn them on, put them in. They really are the ones who want to move and move quickly. Certainly, if ambition outruns the team, sometimes that can be detrimental.
Right.
But if you have people that are ambitious and want to work, get them and let them go, because they're going to take you to the next place. I'd love to get your reflection on that.
I use the word aligning in the title of my book for a reason. And I think you're bringing up a good point. If you've got one of those star athletes on your team, someone who's just super ambitious, that's really great, unless they're not aligned with your company culture. And that's where you can go awry. Again, you look at the sports analogies, and we've seen them for decades now, where you have that special snowflake on your football team who's an exceptional talent, but thinks, I carry everyone on my back. And they quickly find out the team turns against you. We love ambitious people who are moving forward everyone's goal. We want to support those people. It's interesting. You don't want to hold somebody back, but at the same time, you want to make sure they're in alignment with where you're trying to go as a company. Then cut them loose and let them do their thing.
I think it has to be channeled. In other words, if someone's ambition can be channeled and support the team, it's a great thing. We're getting close to the end here, Len. I'm going to ask you my world famous question. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it at any issue or problem that you see in the work world, in the world that you live, what would that issue be and why?
Yeah, it's funny. I've thought more about that since yesterday. I've had a chance to ruminate on that thought. And I think I've changed my opinion in terms of what I consider to be the most important thing right now. This is maybe a little esoteric and maybe a little big picture. It kind of comes out of the business realm to an extent. But you talked about us being social creatures. The other thing that I think is inherent in human nature is a bit of an us-them mentality. I think there's been almost no more harm done in my adult life than the continued move towards us-them thinking. I think it makes people kind of recalcitrant. We're talking about Gen Z as an example. A lot of company leaders right now are Gen X and baby boomers. Gen Z is the them. Typically, them is a 4-letter word, which means I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting to know very much about you. You're just on the outside. I'm not going to go as far as say you're the enemy, but you're not one of us. I think it's causing and continuing to cause tremendous problems, obviously geopolitically, but certainly in the corporate world as well. Gen Z already makes up 20% of the workforce. They're going to be 30% by the end of the decade. We have to take the time, and I'm a Gen Xer. We've got to take the time to get to know this generation and to understand it isn't us, them, different perspectives, different people. And if I'm doing a good enough job understanding myself and the us side of the equation, I can help them to see it as well. But I've got to move out of my camp and start making my way over to the other camp to initiate that conversation. So I would say if I could wave a wand and in one fell swoop change something, it would be that. It would be people's openness to learn about other people without those walls going up.
Agreed, 150%. It's really about how we harness the power of Gen Z. How do we get that focused energy working for us as opposed to against us? I don't think this is rocket science. We've got great people working rocket science right now, but this is not rocket science. It's really about sitting down and exploring the fundamental tenets of importance in their life and saying, okay, how do we connect that up? How do we connect the dots of an organization to these folks and bring them into the organization in a way that lets them do what they do best? My sort of tongue-in-cheek question now, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, is, so tell me, who's the smartest person in the room? Is it the CEO? Maybe COO? Could be. What about the 25-year-old who spends 6 hours a day going from AI system to AI system, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, whichever system it is, and is working with ideas and fleshing them out in an AI forum, if you will, has really done well in prompting, understands prompting. Right now, they're offering prompt engineers north of 300K a year to master the prompting. So if you've got someone who's pretty good at prompting and they know how to do this and really have opened up this vast knowledge base and are working problems for the organization, whether it's a marketing problem, a distribution problem, a service meets the customer problem, they're pretty smart. Now, the question is, can you get them on the team working with you and availing yourself to this knowledge? And for me, that is one of the prime movers that is redefining the whole concept of leadership. And I'll just mention this. My model of leadership I started developing 30 years ago. It's based on one thing, and that one thing is contribution. We have an issue, we have a problem. Anybody want to jump in here? Anybody want to help us? You know, we're making space. We're making room for everybody to be fully involved in the organization. I'll give you the last words. Go ahead, Len.
I'll take that one step further. One of the things I've always said, I'll ask people, what's a camel? And a camel is a horse that's designed by a committee. There's also a danger in allowing for so much contribution that there isn't a clear direction that the company is heading. So when you talk about a leader, someone who's in that C-suite, I totally agree. Their job is to listen to the people who are interacting with clients every day, who are interacting with vendors every day, and have perspectives that you don't have. But at the end of the day, it is that leader who has a clear understanding of their company culture, of their company brand, who ultimately has to take all of this information and make a decision. It cannot be a group think decision and lead to success, at least not from my perspective. I agree with you. I think it's a matter of incorporating, learning from other people, sharing ideas, and then being decisive.
And that is why focus, clarity, and a simple mission statement that becomes the guiding light, the North Star for the organization is so important, because everybody can say, well, how does it help us achieve our mission? How does it move us down the road? So in a sense, you take all this input and channeling it along the lines of who we are as an organization and where do we intend to go. So I agree with you. There has to be someone like the CEO or the top leaders that keep the train on the tracks. This is our track. This is our lane. Let's stay in our lane and keep moving on. So thank you so much. Len, this has been a joy. I appreciate it so much for your time today here on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I wish you and your family all the greatest success in the future. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.